We are back, baby. We are back. We are back. We are back. You guys know I like to serenade you. We are back. Welcome to It's That Deep, the podcast. I'm your host. My name is IG-feyisara, and this is a podcast, my God, where everything is that deep. We talk about TV, we talk about politics, culture, society, religion, all of it. Nothing goes undiscussed on this podcast, but of course we don't talk about things on the surface level. It literally is that deep over here, so we dig a little bit deeper into what is happening in society and what it means for who we are as people and who we are as a society. So welcome back. It has been 10,000 billion years since I've done that introduction, and I missed it. I cannot lie, I missed it. Chill. I would say life has been lifing, but life hasn't really been lifing. Like, nothing deep has happened. I just needed a break. So I took myself on a little hiatus. It lasted longer than I had planned, which did quote unquote upset me. But you know what? You got to roll with the punches. Sometimes you got to listen to your body. Do you know what I mean? But we're back from hiatus, better than ever. And yeah, this is the first episode back. I was thinking, what are we going to do? Are we going to reintroduce? Like, what are we changing things? But, you know, I really try to use the time away to just like look at what works and what doesn't work. And also just pray into this thing and be like, what's the strategy? But, you know, sometimes people take a hiatus and they come back and they're like, yeah, we're introducing this new format and we're going to do this different and that different. And it's something you've never seen before. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Don't fix what's not broken. Do you know what I mean? I feel like the format works, and when I've prayed into it and I've sought the Lord about it, you know, the instruction has been continuing what you've been doing, be faithful to what you started and the format that you started. And so there's no new tricks or gimmicks around here. We're doing what we've always done, and is going to be as fruitful as ever. You know, I'm really excited to just get back to yapping. Oh my God, I've missed a good yap, guys. I should have a cup of tea beside me right now. But yeah, we're going to stick to what we've been doing before because it works, and I personally love it. So if you don't know what that is, because it's your first time listening to the pod, what we do on this podcast is we take 3 stories from the news cycle in the week, and we break them down, discuss them just a little bit deeper than what you would get on, like, I think it's 140 characters you get on Twitter now, or I mean, max anyone's listening to a TikTok is like 1 minute, right? So we break it down a little bit more. To me, a story is never just a story. It always has the capacity to tell us a little bit more about who we are as people, where we stand as a society, and also, you know, indicate where we're going. And so that's what we do here at It's That Deep, and we do that with 3 stories. We have 2 honorable picks and a main story, and that's the gist, to be honest. So before we get into the episode, send this to your deep friends, send this to your thinkers, any lovers of politics or sociology or anthropology or media. Send it. I don't want dumb people here. Call me prejudiced. I don't want people who don't read. I don't want people who get their news from the shade borough here. I don't want people who get their news from Twitter. I just don't want you here. I'm sorry. If you want to call me a segregationist, do it. You know that meme of Cuba Gooding Jr.? Lock me up right now. Sorry, I don't want people who don't read here. So don't send it to your dumb friends. Don't send it to your friends who don't read. Send it to people who have the capacity to think, and want to think a bit deeper. Do you know what I mean? Sorry if that's insulted anybody, but that's what we do here, just a little bit. All right, I think I've wobbled. Guys, I'm getting back into podcasting, so just forgive any mistakes that do take place, but I think I've waffled enough. We should get into the episode. Okay, really quickly, I do want to give a little cheeky life update. We don't really do that over here because it's not that kind of, I feel like nobody comes to It's That Deep because they want to hear about my life. First of all, my life is not that exciting, but also we're not like, you know, when the girls on YouTube used to do like a life update and they do their makeup, that's not me. But I do also feel like we have a little gang here. We have a little group of us You know what I mean? I have a great audience of listeners. And so I'm like, you can't disappear off the face of the earth for 8 to 9 weeks and just come back and be like, oh, we're back. So I was like, little life update. There's not much to say. There's nothing dramatic, like I'm pregnant or anything like that. I was just burnt out and overworking myself. And that was like from May. I just hit my microphone. But that was like from May to like a couple weeks ago, if I'm being completely honest. We went hard, I can't lie. Like, if you listened particularly to episodes at the start of the year, every episode I was like, yeah, we're going 52 episodes band for band, we're doing it week to week to week. And that was really the idea. But I guess sometimes you have to be comfortable with shifting your parameters of success as the years go on, or as whatever goes on. If it's a business you're building, or I don't know, a TikTok page or whatever, like, you have to be comfortable with shifting the parameters of success, and also knowing that shifting those are not failures. So I got to like May, and I kid you not, I was like burnt out. And then the election was announced, I think in June, and I was like, okay, well, I've got to push myself, because if we're going to talk about anything, it's going to be the election, right? So I was like, okay, cool, let's push ourselves to the election, and then we can look into taking a break. And even the night of the election, like, I remember it, well, I always remember it because it's my birthday week. So I had my birthday, and then the night of the 5th, I literally stayed up till 4 a.m. So technically into the 6th of July, watching the commentary. I was on TikTok live talking to a few of you guys. Like, I was going hard. And then I slept for literally a couple of hours, got up, scripted the next episode, went out for my birthday, then came back and filmed it. Like, I was really, really good. I was like tiring myself out for the sake of the content. And listen, I know it's forbidden to say it's not that deep on this podcast, but for this one exception, I'm gonna say it's not that deep. Like, nobody could die for content. Me, I will not kill myself because of content. So after the election, I was like, you've deserved the rest, Feyisara. Put the equipment, put the mic down. Some people need to listen to that advice. Put the mic down, put it down. Oh, some of you guys need to have your mic stolen. But anyways, not me. But I said to myself, put the mic down. It's okay. If people are really like for you and they're really tapped into what you're doing here, they will come back. If they don't, it's cool. And I think in another iteration of this podcast, there is a world where I have conversations about like rest and wellness and the industry and creating and all these things with guests. Because originally when I started developing the podcast, I wanted to have guests, but that wasn't where the Lord was taking me. But in a future iteration, maybe a few years down the line, I don't know, I want to have those conversations because I feel like they're important. I want to not stick so heavy to the news cycle, but for the foreseeable future, that's what we're finna do. But yeah, and that's why I'm sharing this with you, because like I said, this is so off brand. We really don't talk about this, but I've had so many conversations with other creators, other podcasters, you know, creative people who have given me advice, and even just helps me to shift my perspective on like, okay, you took 8-9 weeks off. Who died? Like, nobody died. It's okay. But what happens is you step away, you refresh yourself, and you come back bigger and better. And so that's what we're going to do. Yeah. I just felt like I owed you guys that. Yeah. That's it. That's it, really. I felt like I owed you guys somewhat of an explanation without sharing too much of my business, because I don't get paid to do that. So yeah, as you can tell, this is very off-brand for It's That Deep. This is not the typical format that we go with, but I felt that it was necessary to explain to you why I fell off the face of the earth. But you lot already know, like, the typical format. We do the 3 stories and we dig into them a bit deeper. But for today, I thought I'm gonna switch it up a little bit. As well as a live update, I do want to give a bit of context and like a reintroduction into the pod. So yeah, have I ever actually done an or like an intro episode of like, this is what It's That Deep is about, this is what we do here? Or not really what we do here, because I feel like everybody knows that, but like, why do we do what we do here? And I just was thinking about coming back, and somebody actually asked me this week, I tell you, I did not plan this, but somebody asked me this week, like, where did the name It's That Deep come from? And I'm like, oh, I've never actually said that, or I've never actually like spoken about why the phrase "it's that deep" actually is quite significant to me. And it's annoying because the news cycle this week has been pretty interesting, and I do actually have a lot to say. I mean, if you've been anywhere online, you know that shits and gigs are being dragged by their nyash up, and like this is an international dragging of proportions I've never seen before. They went on a white man's podcast as two black men, clown black women, apologized for it, only for the white man that they were joking with to turn around and beat their nyash for apologizing. So they're getting dragged globally. I did a TikTok on that. If you want to check that out, that will be in the description box. What else happened? Oh, Diddy is going to prison. Diddy is not seeing the light of day. The next light he will see is the fire of hell. He is going to prison, and he's going to, if they don't kill him, he's going to die there. Which is great. I love that. I can sleep so peacefully at night knowing that he's actually going to die in prison. What else is happening? Israel is on like this path of destruction, just killing. I think they launched some like missiles or airstrikes into Lebanon this week. They are, and we're also approaching October 7th, which I'm going to talk about maybe next week. But they are on a warpath of destruction. What else happened? We had the Emmys this week. A lot has happened, is the point. So I'm kind of like, ooh, I want to do what we normally do, but I also feel like, let me just scale back a bit, do you know what I mean? And actually unpack what this podcast is and why the name in particular is so significant to me. Like, even when I think about everything that happened the minute I stopped recording, you know, we had the race riots here in England. I say England, was it the whole? I think it was the whole country. That was bad. That was so bad. So we had that. You know, Joe Biden stepped out of the presidential race. Kamala Harris stepped in, of course, inviting so much discourse on race and pandering and marketing and all that stupid stuff. What else? We had the Olympics. What else happened? Much. I feel like much happened. But even when I think about all of that, particularly something like the race riots, the phrase "it's that deep" to me becomes so much more significant, because I'm trying to find a way to word this, but I also think it's a spiritual concept where, like, something that I've been learning this year is that seed is everything, and you can't dismiss what appears to be, because if you look at like a physical seed, it doesn't carry much weight physically. It's just a little thing. But the moment you dismiss it and you're like, oh, it's just a seed, you're stepped into very dangerous territory, because you set yourself up for a massive surprise when that seed bears fruit and births a tree, for example. And so for something like the race riots, I look at it and what was happening. I mean, black and brown people were being attacked for no apparent reason. I watched a TikTok just the other day of a lady who said she came out of, I want to say it was irritation, and she was literally walking on the phone to her friend, meeting her friend, and a white man literally came up to her and boxed her in the face and started calling her all manner of racist things. And it's like, the moment you consider something as minute, you, like I said, set yourself up for trouble, because I'm sure that that guy who boxed that lady in the face had made like a racist joke, maybe at like a work drinks, and you know, to people it's like, oh, that's not that deep, it's just a joke. That's the seed, right? But the moment you do that and you, yeah, whatever, it's not that deep, right? You give room for that to grow and manifest in what we saw happening in the race riots. The TikTok that I made about shits and gigs, like, people think jokes about black women are just, it's not that deep. I literally had so many people go, it's not that deep, it's just a joke, like, laugh about it. Comedians, well, first of all, they're not comedians, let's just start there, but like, comedians make jokes, right? But I think "it's that deep" is so significant to me, because it's really a call for us to be really aware of how little things add up to the big things. So Kamala Harris, you know, having discourse around her race, and she's half Indian and she's half black, and is she pandering, and why is she doing this? That is the fruit of seeds that have been sown in conversation by white men here and even black people here and there. And it's like, we have to think so much it's actually weird because sometimes we think too large scale, but we need to think smaller scale and take note of the smaller scale incidences that manifest in the big things that we see happen in our society. And so that, you know, for me is part of the reason why I started It's That Deep. If you know me personally, I studied sociology. Do you know what? If I had a time machine, I wish I had a time machine. Is that the words? I think that's the song. But if I had a time machine, I think that's with an asterisk, but I think I would have studied sociology at uni rather than politics. But the point is, I'm a student of sociology. I studied it at GCSE, I studied it at A level, and I did some sociology modules at uni. I love that subject. And people often look at like the humanities and the arts as like finicky, airy fairy, not of substance subject. That's why the Tories, like, part of their manifesto was they were going to get rid of, they gave it a particular name, but they were going to get rid of, like, I'm just going to call it airy fairy subjects. So the arts, humanities, you know, philosophy, those sorts of things. And to me, that's so dangerous, because how else do we understand how the non-airy fairy things work if we don't have a grasp on basic human behavior, right? We don't care about the stocks and the markets and finance, but when you start looking at how the people who work in those industries operate, that's when it becomes interesting. And so I love sociology, studied politics and international relations at uni, and I work in the media. And so that's why I was like, first of all, again, if you know me, starting this podcast, it was not really my idea. The Lord gave it to me, more so instructed me. What did I do? In obedience, I followed him. But actually, as the episodes have been going out, I'm seeing the fruition of, I guess, what is his will, and the fact that, like, human behavior has to be explained and it has to be understood for us not to repeat mistakes, right? And so, listen, it's not a shits and gigs, it's not a receipt, I'm not a Madam Joyce, but I do think what we're doing here and the conversations we're having here are important. I think the only way to not repeat history or to not make bad decisions is to get to the root of humans and why we are the way we are. And that's why, to me, a story is never just a story. It always has the ability to reveal a bit more to us. And so I was like, yeah, let me take this opportunity. And I'm sure there's going to be a shorter episode than usual, but I was like, let me take this opportunity to just unpack, even for myself, like, to refresh my own vision kind of thing, and be like, why is It's That Deep important? Why is it that, like, why do we do this here? This is technically a magazine show. Like, so many people are doing this, but I think it's important to come from somebody who looks like me, aka hot. I knew this wasn't going to be a long one, because it's sort of like trying to relearn how to swim. People say it's hard to relearn how to ride a bike. I'm sorry, you need deliverance. It's not that hard to learn how to ride a bike again, but relearning how to swim, I actually forgot how to swim, so that's what it feels like. But yeah, that's why I knew this episode was going to be a shorter one, but I hope that's given some context as to why this podcast exists and why we do what we do. Part of me is like, can we just about Diddy just for a few moments? But no, I'm gonna honor what I wrote in my script. But yeah, that is it for this week's episode. We are back to regular programming next week, so we are coming with the 3 stories. We probably will, split someone's nyash in half. I don't know what the news cycle will bring us, but we're back to regular programming. I just wanted to give a bit of context, so I hope you guys have an understanding. I hope, like, now you're invested, do you know what I mean, and It's That Deep and what we're doing here. I hope it's just giving you some further insight into why this is not a podcast like any other, if I do say so myself. I'm excited to get back to what we usually do here. So make sure you are back here next Sunday at 7 p.m. on YouTube or on Spotify. We are back with the proper episodes. Follow us on Instagram. Follow me on Instagram, on TikTok. It's all, the information will all be somewhere. And yeah, like, comment, subscribe, blah, 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 blah. All that super fun stuff. And I literally cannot wait for next week's episode. So until then, I shall see ya. See you later, guys.